Let's start with what is a startup. So Paul Graham says a startup is a company that's designed to grow fast, right? Now, this grow fast puts us in a bit of a dilemma because you want to be able to grow the team fast, but you don't want to dilute the quality, right? Because we know that the initial team is what makes the startup succeed. It's sort of make or break. So on the one hand, you want to be able to grow fast, grow the team fast, but you also want to ensure that you have the best talent that's working on the problems at the startup. And that's a bit of a dilemma. Specifically, I think there are three problems that any startup faces, the three challenges it faces with hiring. Problem number one is it doesn't have well-defined processes, right? So if you were working at Google or Microsoft, obviously someone has figured out what works best for Google and Microsoft, and you're mostly just executing on whatever they've decided, right? I'm fairly certain that most of you are working at companies where these processes have not been figured out. The reason I know that is because you're on this call. If you had this figured out, you would likely not be attending this call to figure out how it works, right? So, and that's how it should be, right? You're at a startup, so lots of things are not known. And the idea of a webinar like this is for you to be able to learn what the best practices are, implement them at your company so that when your startup grows, others will be able to, just execute on that. But the fact remains that you not having well-defined processes is a bit of a challenge because everything has to be decided on the day. I'm sure every day is, it's like a house on fire, right? You have to be solving for that. The other challenge is that candidates are not familiar with your brand. We use, for example, CutShort at Equip to source candidates, right? And one of the questions we have on that CutShort process is we ask candidates, why do you want to work at Equip? And very often we get a response like, I am really interested in healthcare and I want to make a difference to the world. And the reason simply is that there's another brand called Equip that is in health tech, and the candidate has not read our profile on CutShort. They Googled Equip, they found a different brand, and they thought they're working for Equip, right? So it's a bit funny here, but whenever you're reaching out on your own to candidates, it becomes a bigger problem. If they haven't heard of you, then it's very difficult for them to want to spend a big chunk of their, professional life at your company. So this lack of familiarity with your brand is a big challenge. The last problem is a bit topical. I think a lot of you should be facing this right now because of whatever happened in the past year, the layoffs and the funding freezes. A lot of talent is very wary of being associated with startups. It's a big risk for them. They don't want to take a chance. I've had many instances where either we've reached out to candidates or they've reached out to us. We've had a great intro call. They've bought into the vision of the company. They like the product. We funded, and then silence. Right? They don't respond to outreach at all. And you try and understand why. And then when you dig deeper, they will tell you that it's because you're a startup, and either they have had a problem or some friend of theirs got laid off, and so they're very concerned about working at a startup. Right? So these are the challenges. The point of the webinar is to give you a few suggestions, give you a few tips and tricks that you can use to overcome these challenges. Okay.